And as always, reviews and comments are welcome on this show. Look for us on our social media platforms. Join us on TV on Facebook. Join us on TV on Twitter. Send us a tweet with a hashtag The Pulse. We'll be glad to share your thoughts with the rest of the world. Now, there has emerged a trend which is sparking a lot of worry for Ghanaians. It's the spate of police officers and their involvement in criminal activities in the country. The first major one this year has been the involvement of 2 policemen attacking a bullion van at Nkoko in the eastern region. In fact, last year, 2015 alone, 65 police officers were interdicted for their involvement in crimes ranging from armed robbery to car snatching. So what is fueling this trend? Let's bring you this account of someone who has suffered at the hands of policemen.
It may look like a regular normal day here at the market square at Tiptoe Lane, but the reason we have a check and balance in society is because anything can change. This very calm scenery could change into that of chaos, of a demonstration, of someone pickpocketing another, and that will require the services of those gentlemen who are tasked of...
We went to Italtech refinery. Not to buy from Italtech, but we have some sellers that agree to sell the gold to Italtech. So we went there, we process, we test, we finish everything, we bought. Soon we paid the money. 3 police officers in uniform, 1 in civil and another civil, jump inside, jump on us, beat my friend, took the gold in forts, and put us in cells for 1 day. And at the same time they switched the gold.
How much is this gold worth?
It's around $160,000.
$160,000. Where is this money? Have you already paid this money to someone?
Everything. And what is special, the seller who got the money is not here. So we just paid, put the gold in our pocket, and now the police officer took the gold in force when he beat my friend. And now when we arrive in the police station, we ask where is the gold. It's not the same. It's not the same. And I signed each bar. It was prepared. What we understand now, it's the seller and the refineries. They prepared that with Italtech, with East Legon police station, some officers there. They prepared that for 1 week. For 1 week it was prepared.
You suspect that they connived?
When the seller he took the money, soon he get out the refinery, he talked with the police officer. He talked with one police officer.
On the telephone?
No, on the street. We have witness for that. We have witness that they saw one police in uniform talk with the guy who took the money. So.
And the one who took your money, where is he?
We never saw him again. And the police are not looking after him. We don't know. We ask about him, but we don't have any answer. We got the original gold in the beginning. Here's the police, they came, they beat us, and they switched it. One I know very well, Mr. Cyrus is the CID. He is the brain of this operation. We went to the director of operation of Ghana Police, Mr. Tete. He drove us to the Accra Central Police Station. We saw Mr. Bonga, the regional commander, but we don't see anything. And I feel that they are hiding something. I'm sorry for the situation because I feel sorry for Ghanaians. Because if Ghanaians have to live with this kind of police, it's terrible. It's very terrible. What I want to understand, what they are doing, what the government, the authorities, they will do for that. Because it's not normal that investor like me and my friend, we are coming here. Police supposed to protect us, should to protect us. And right now they beat us, they arrest us, they put us in cell, they switch the gold, and what? We have to stop, we have to go back in our country and forget about Ghana? That is not helping Ghana.
Well, that's an account of someone who suffered at the hands of men he thought were policemen who will uphold the law. The matter is still being investigated by PIPs of the Ghana Police Service, and we will begin the conversation here in just a moment. But we also found out that about this worrying trend. Here's what I found out when I sampled views on the streets of Accra of Ghanaians and what they make of criminals in uniform.
It may may look like a regular normal day here at the Market Square at Tiptoe Lane, but the reason we have a check and balance in society is because anything can change. This very calm scenery could change into that of chaos, of a demonstration, of someone pickpocketing another, and that will require the services of those gentlemen who are tasked with enforcing the law in this country. But what do you do as a Ghanaian when that script begins to change? When it's no more the chaos of Ghanaians, but rather criminals in uniform, and by that I mean police officers and their involvement in crime in the country. Talk of armed robbery to car snatching to even pilfering in the Market Square. That's what we're here to find out, to understand how Ghanaians process this new trend and what will be their own solutions they will proffer to solve this huge problem upon us.
It has been a concern to me, so I thank you for the opportunity for me to say my mind. You see, the police are supposed to protect us, but I think it is with the training. These days we hear that before they get the forms and whatsoever, people in high places will just help them. Some of them even don't go for the training and they qualify them. And then we also have to have a department there that instills discipline. Most of the time when these things happen, it just come on the news and then you don't hear whatever happens to them. I remember a former president, Mills of blessed memory, in his time something happened and then he made sure that they were jailed. But these things nowadays we don't hear of any discipline or whatsoever. Kumasi issue, the guy that was killed, blah 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 blah, we didn't hear anything. Recently in Koko, snatching of this. So I think the Ministry of Interior should set up a committee and then they should come up with reports of whatever they come, because it should be stopped. If the police are doing this, then it means we are vulnerable.
It's a problem in Ghana. In fact, the recruitment of the police, see, they have to examine the interview to know the background before they are enlisted into the police service. But it has been overlooked. So they are employing or enlisting all sorts of people who you don't know their background. This is one of the factors.
So for you now, even as the solution is looked for, what do you do when you see a policeman who is supposed to enforce the law and you have that flashing thought of him possibly being a criminal?
It's something. It's something. When it happens, when a policeman does that, behaves in that way, the only thing is he should be given punishment. He should be punished.
What kind of punishment?
He has to be stripped of his this thing, and maybe his entitlements and emoluments forfeited.
It's through the recruitment that we are seeing all these things. Olden days, recruitment is just like a tradition. They will go to your school, they will consult the chiefs, the imams, the opinion leaders. But now, they recruit anyhow. No investigation, no background, no anything shows that this man has a good character. So this is what is led the police involved in the crimes. You recruit an armed robber or a thief, a person that people don't know his background, but you suppose that person can do national duties?
You don't think so?
That's it.
Okay, so when you see a policeman walk by right now, as you're here reading a paper, when you see a policeman walk by, do you get the sense that he may just be one of those people who was wrongfully recruited?
Of course. Even you can look the way they dress.
How do they dress?
They don't dress well. Some of them, excuse me to say, some of them don't dress well. This shows that he has no character. In boarding school olden days, cleaning was something that very, very important. You have to lay down your bed well, you dress well, your head, your fingers, all these things count. But you can have some of the big dress.
Does it make you scared now about the system we have now and the men who are supposed to be enforcing the law in the country?
Yes, of course. Now, there's no trust in the police service. I'm telling you. but not all of them. But police and the civilian, there's a gap.
How big is the gap?
About 70-80%, they don't trust the police.
So what should be done to convince you that yes, these men have changed? What should be done?
It's not lost. They have to go back to the old system. When they recruit you, they find out your background. Even from your family, they can see it. From the chiefs.
Now, not only the elderly in society are worried about this emerging trend. In fact, the young and in the medium class are also concerned about it. Daniel is one of them. He's here to go on to two things, but he's gracious enough to share his thoughts with us here on the show. Good morning to you, sir. First of all, policemen involved in crime these days, what do you make of this new trend?
It's really disappointing. The police are rather to protect us rather than to rob us, and I don't expect a policeman or a police person who knows the law and is supposed to protect the people rather robbing. I don't think it speaks well of the police. People will, be disappointed in them and will lose trust, and it's really going to affect, the kind of respect that image or that institution have, because they can't trust them. Their own people are now, on our neck or robbing us, and it's really, for the worrisome. For the past weeks, what have happened concerning police institution is not good, and I think it's about time they come out and redeem that image.
And when you say come out and redeem their image, what exactly should they do?
Well, it's good they are reporting these cases. Mostly they cover them, but now we are all aware that these particular officers have been brought to the public view, and we know that this is what is happening. We hope they don't only say it, but they take actions by getting rid of such people from that institution, and rather recruit people they can trust who do the job.
Well, Duke is here. He is in the telecoms industry, also worried about this development. Let's hear his thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think the government have to step in and to know a way forward about it. I'm saying this because most of the policemen were being recruited in a wrong direction. Not because maybe there's money. They came in to get money, but they are not doing what they're supposed to do. They came to get money in terms of, maybe when you're a policeman, at the end of the day, you go home with a huge sum of money, but instead of doing the proper job, so their intention being the police is not there.
Okay, so how then, if you are saying that the recruitment is wrong, how do you fix it? Because not everyone will come and tell you that I'm in for the money. They will come to say they want to serve. So how do we do this right?
It's coming from this protocol issue and stuff like that, because most of them they pass through the back channel, which is not the proper recruitment in terms of the training and other things. I think if I should talk this way, people will understand. So it's the protocol issue and stuff. It's not about proper training and proper recruitment.
So now that you're worried about this, we still have police officers working in the country today. They need to enforce law and order. Do you trust that they can do that for you?
Oh, I do trust, but if proper measures have to come from the top hierarchy officials and ensure maybe whoever involved in such corporate will be dealt responsibly, and they have to put their feet down to ensure they do the right thing. And those who are on duty, they should be at their posts at all the time. I think they can check on this, because what I've also realized is you can when you even travel from maybe Accra to somewhere Kumasi, people on the roadside which they are not supposed to be there, because they're supposed to be on their post, but because of, as I said, because of money, they are on the roadside just taking money from passengers. With a little mistake, they will take money from you. Our robbers are there. They're supposed to be on their post to check all these issues, but they are not doing that. So I think when the ministry or the government puts feet on the ground to ensure all these measures are being done, I think they can reduce the sum of the risk.
Now, Duke has shared his views on this matter when it comes to the challenge we're having with police officers and their involvement in crime. They've made their thoughts clear, and many like him have been quite vociferous about the point of the mode of entry, the recruitment model for the Ghana Police Service. But is that the solution to this problem? I'm sure the IGP will have some thoughts to share on this. I'm sure also that the Interior Minister, Prosper Bani, will have his own take on this matter. But we've heard their thoughts. Let's see if the results will come in. Francis Abman reporting for Joy News.
Right, let's open up this conversation a bit more. Joining us in the studio today is Professor Ken Atefa. He is a renowned criminologist and Dean of the Law Faculty at the Central University. Thank you, sir, for joining us today.
Thank you, Francis.
Right, and as we continue the conversation here, I must indicate that at some point here on the show, we will head to Parliament where we're learning that the majority are addressing a news conference in relation to that motion application for the bipartisan probe into the president's controversial Ford gift. We'll look at that as and when we have the live visuals from Parliament. We'll bring that to you as and when we have the link. But let's begin the conversation here on what has been christened by many as criminals in uniform. Professor Ken Atefa is with me in the studio. Prof, you've done a lot of work in terms of the conduct of the Ghana Police Service over the years. Are we looking at a new trend here of some police officers who are not enforcing the law but rather perpetrating crime?
Oh, no, not at all. There's nothing new about this phenomenon. It's as old as policing itself, since Mr. Peel developed the concept of policing in England in the 1800s. We have had bad cops right from day one. In this country, if you peruse the Daily Graphic, which is probably the oldest national daily, you would find story after story of police officers engaged in diverse forms of criminality, from armed robbery through narcotic drug trafficking to human trafficking to you name it. The police have been involved. It must be stated that that is just a small proportion of police who engage in police deviance and criminality, but it is not surprising and it is universal.
But again, if you look at the specific Ghanaian situation, for many we spoke to today, their thinking is that if we're seeing more and more reports in recent times, it points to a problem, doesn't it?
Oh, it surely does point to a problem. What I'm trying to say is that, number one, it is not a new phenomenon. Number two, we have to be cautious in saying that there is an increase. There's surely greater reportage of police criminality in recent times, partly because of greater improvements in societal surveillance technology and the ease with which bad news becomes good news for the media, and it leads to a phenomenon that we criminologists often call crime wave, which is different from crime rate. We're talking of a situation where there is a general perception or belief that there is an increase in the number of crimes occurring per X size of the population, when in reality it may be the result of an increased reportage. When one heinous crime occurs, it gets reported by Joy News and all your affiliates pick it up across the country, and then other even competitors pick it up, and the society becomes saturated with bad news about that particular phenomenon, and the public discourse on it evokes previous images, and people will then engage in what in criminology we call forward telescoping. You ask somebody, have you been a victim of mugging or rape or armed robbery, and recently, and the event happened, let's say 5 years ago, and they'll say, oh, the other day I was coming from work and I was so and so. So I do believe that some amount of that is going on, but objectively, empirically, we know that in the last 2 weeks, we have had a chronology of very horrible crimes involving the police, and the public is justified in being angry and in demanding that action is taken. One crime by one police officer is one too many.
And if you talk about the recent spate of cases that we've seen in the past 2 weeks alone, it points to what some of the people were raising today when I spoke to them, that maybe, just maybe, we should begin to look at the processes in recruiting the men who work for us in enforcing the law. Is that where we identify the source of this problem?
In theory, yes, that is one potential source, but in practice in this country, that process is just a joke. I mean, seriously, how many Ghanaians truly give an honest account, an honest testament about someone they know is looking for a job? Very few people are ethical on that plane and will be able to say that I know this person, He's a member of my family, my community, my church, or my former workplace. And I do not think that he's suitable for this position. Very, very few Ghanaians would do that. The majority would rather, either they would not say anything, which is bad enough, or they will praise the person to the highest heavens. Because in our society, people depend a lot on the sense, the belief that interdependence is good, that you need to scratch somebody's back today so that they will scratch your back, and that you should not badmouth a member of your community, that you will get negative, get a backlash from the community. So people are caught up in this, negative sociological whirlwind, where we give positive appraisals when we are recommending people for jobs that they may not even be suited for. Second, police recruitment strategies themselves are fraught with significant corruption, and we all know recent examples, at least stories about police corruption recruitment scams. I do appreciate that over the last 2 years, the former Inspector General of Police in particular, Mohammed Al-Hassan, instituted measures that aimed at controlling the phenomenon, including the establishment of multiple sub-agencies of the police to do different aspects of the recruitment process, so that somebody, for example, is some people, maybe a team, is responsible for reviewing the applications. Another different set of team is responsible for actually calling people to report for the selection. And those who are doing the body selection are not involved in those who have to deal with the compilation of the list and the medical screening and all of that. So all of these different things to ensure that there are checks and balances, and so a lot is being done.
But even with that example you gave, Prof, even with that the former IGP put in place, during his tenure, we saw that major scam that happened about 2 years ago. Actually, the director human resource at the time, Mr. Timbela, is still on interdiction. The report is yet to come out. Does that also lend credence to some people who will say, if you think there's a problem with the recruitment, let's have the report out, clear everyone's minds of any doubts, so we can believe that the process is being done in the right manner?
Francis, I'm just sick and tired of always calling on the police to do the right thing when it comes to administrative justice. This is one of the areas where the police has traditionally fallen short of public expectations. Police involvement in criminality is as old as history. Police reports on the investigations that they conduct into crime by police the reports are hardly seen. And it undermines public confidence in the ability of the police to do an honest job of investigating police deviance and criminality. And so we have the Timbela case that you mentioned. In fairness, the measures that IGP Mohammed Al-Hassan instituted were measures post or after the Timbela story. And I think that we saw a better process in the last or most recent recruitment drive.
So now that we're looking at this challenge today, clearly there's a great measure of mistrust between the civilians, those who expect these policemen to do their jobs properly, and then the men who've been tasked to do this job. Even though there's a certain measure of bias in their eyes, how do we fix this? How do we scale this hurdle of the mistrust between the Ghana Police Service and Ghanaians who think that some of them may just be criminals in uniform?
Well, a couple of measures. First of all, the recruitment has to involve, it has always involved ordinary citizens, the leaders in their communities, giving recommendations. But criminal background checks, background checks of people in this country is very porous, very inadequate. We need to improve that, and that is where a national identification system and a biometric identification system is critical. Number two, citizen integrity. Those making recommendations about people to come and police us must be people who are honest. They must be honest with the assessments that they make. An ethical check.
How do we guarantee that?
We cannot. When it comes to integrity and ethics, there has to be a personal commitment by every single individual to target and to reach that level. But because we cannot trust the individual to rely on their conscience and to do the right thing, we develop institutional mechanisms for compelling compliance with good behavior. That is why we have the police themselves. That is why we have all the systems of checks and balances, some of which I alluded to earlier. And so we need to do that. One of them is also this whole ancient idea of an independent police complaints commission, which would be the agency of state investigating serious infractions, alleged serious infractions by the police, and giving their reports out so that action can be taken on those reports in order to boost public confidence.
But the police we've had have a similar body called PIPs within their own organization,
yes,
which is supposed to do this job.
Yeah, that's just like Idi Amin investigating Idi Amin. It's ridiculous. I mean, it is good for minor internal administrative enquiries. I have appeared before the police representing police personnel accused of various crimes. I know what goes on at the PIPs, and I know that when they have to face rustication and all kinds of processes, if you are in the bad books, if somebody doesn't like the shape of your nose within the Ghana Police Service and you get into trouble, they can have the PIPs influence the outcome negatively. If you have someone who loves you to bits, no matter what it is that you've done within the institution, the PIPs can be induced, at least could be induced, to give a whitewash or something else. But even if you staff the PIPs with angels who are committed to doing an honest job, it does not guarantee that it will translate into public confidence. And I do believe that there are some good people within the PIPs doing their job. I know the head of that unit and I trust him. But I believe, and the lady, but I believe that it is not good enough. We need to do, and so far, even the police now admit that there is a need for this independent public complaints commission. I've been calling for this since 1998.
And so that's what happened yet?
Nothing has happened. Last year, there was a public forum at the Alisa Hotel at which various institutions were present, including government, but the police wasn't present and gave various excuses. But the key thing is that now they've come around to admitting that there's considerable value in having this independent police complaints commission as an important step in ensuring police accountability, ensuring that the appropriate steps, tentative steps are built toward fostering police community confidence. A third measure that needs to be instituted, enhanced, because it's already there, is police community relations. I think that ought to be taken far more seriously than it has been taken to date. And many an average police officer does not think that community policing is copish enough, that being a cop is all about having guns and doing the things that they say boost morale, kicking butts and catching criminals and all of that. But we have seen in other parts of the world the tremendous role that community policing has played in reducing criminality, improving police community relations, building confidence, and generally fostering a sense of well-being.
I see on this particular recommendation you make about the police and the community collaborating, this policing element you speak of, how do you build this when you already have the general public, or a good section of the general public, already not trusting the job of the police when it comes to they offering information and they seeing a suitable response in terms of action?
Well, it's a chicken and egg situation, but you got to start from somewhere. If you set up a police complaints commission tomorrow and you staff it with independent minded, competent people and you resource it well and you give it adequate publicity, people will begin to take their complaints against the police there. A radio station was telling me yesterday that an independent, an NGO has conducted research that shows that over the last 5 decades, 50 years, the Ghana Police Service has conducted 1 million illegal arrests. Now, that works out to an average of what? 200,000 arrests or so a year? I mean, that is preposterous if the research conclusion is valid. Now, if you begin to have a place, and I headed the National Reconciliation Commission process between 2002 and 2004, we excavated copious volumes of human rights violations and abuses by the police and other security agencies against ordinary citizens. Police confidence, community or citizen confidence in the police has always been a tenuous relationship. Something can be done. So if you take that one step, people will begin to trust the police, because they will know that if there is a problem, a neutral third eye will take a look. Second, if you put good police officers, women and men, and make them the face of the police institution, and they are known in the community as good people, they will build trust. If you also adopt what is called hotspot policing, where the police identifies particular trouble spots in communities. If you take any community, I don't want to name a particular, but if you take any community in Ghana, within that suburb, you will find particular blocks or areas with trouble spots. Then you put police personnel there who are not going to be dressed in ways such as you see in the picture behind me, necessarily. Sometimes that is very necessary, the brutal force image. But some police officers who will identify themselves to the citizenry as police officers, but build trusting relationships, friendships, and all of that, collegiality, and let people know that, camaraderie, and let people know that they are there to help them do problem-solving policing, that they need the citizens in order to solve the problems, and that they need the citizens, because across the world, effective policing is made possible largely by dint of citizen tip-off to the police.
Okay, and that's what I am sure we've seen over the years, even here in Ghana, even though it will not be as much as we would want it. But let's briefly hear from Superintendent Sylvester Arthur. He was here earlier today telling us about what they are doing as the Ghana Police Service in dealing with this emerging trend that people are worried about of some criminals in uniform.
You should appreciate the fact that this is a human institution, and for that matter, we will have few bad nuts creeping through and joining and perpetrating this kind of acts that cause fear among the public, that raises concern. And so over time, we have purposively put measures in place to throw these characters up so that we can weed them out of the service. SPC, Inspection and Monitoring Unit, these are the programs that we have implemented over time. I mentioned Police Intelligence and Professional Standards Bureau. I've mentioned Image Cleansing Campaign, Naming and Shaming, CCTV surveillance cameras spearheaded by COP Rosby Atinga, and what is invoked presently is the Public Confidence Reaffirmation Program. We appreciate the fact that our kind of job is a special one. We must live above reproach. Usually some of these things are perpetrated against members of the public, and the police has an avenue for people who suffer one act of injustice or the other to seek redress with the police, the PIPS issue. And people who come there will attest to the fact that when they come there, they get justice. Sometimes when investigation is done and the matter weighs against the police officer, depending on the magnitude of offense, sometimes it will just be an act of professional misconduct. That one is dealt in-house. That is where service inquiry is conducted. The person gets sometimes dismissed, reduced in rank, which we call demotion, or removed. The removed is like dismissal. By dismissal, you are sacked and you don't get anything. You don't get any compensation. But removal, whether you have got 20 more years to serve or to get to the age of 60, at which time you are to retire, you are sacked, but you are given whatever you have accumulated.
Why not consider making it known to the general public so people know that these things are going on, so they could also have some form of confidence? Yeah,
this is very important. During the previous IGP's administration, that is what we were doing, and the present IGP has hinted that we must start doing that again. The very fact that these few miscreant police officers are arrested or were arrested or have been arrested by their own is in itself an assurance to the general public that this is a police force that will not shield their own, especially the case that happened at Donkokron. I was there with the IGP and went to the spot where the incident occurred. And it was in the bush. The police officers, the 4 police officers, the patrol team, that arrested their own, and they have been promoted to the next rank. I arrested them in the bush and identified their identities to be police officers in the bush. If they were also predisposed to crime or they would have also bargained with them and let them loose. But they kept them and brought them to their bosses, and their bosses also decided to blow their cover. The police administration also committed itself to ensuring that these people are brought so that they are processed for court, and that is what they do. This is a big assurance to the general public that, although we may have police officers who drag the name of the service in the mud, who may put the lives of the people that they are serving in danger, they have a police administration, they have a police service that will go after their own. And I can say that they are already in court.
That's Sefa Satha. He speaks for the Ghana Police Service, Head of Public Affairs, speaking to my colleague Bernice Abubedu earlier today about what the police are doing in this regard. Let me return to the studios and speak to Professor Kenneth Tefari, now criminologist and Dean at the Law Faculty of the Central University College. So, Prof, you heard him. You heard Superintendent Sefa Satha make that point about what they're doing about it. They said they are arresting their own, they are making sure they are dealt with like any other common criminal, and they are dealing with this. Is this enough?
First of all, Central University, not Central University College. We've been chartered since January 1st.
Sorry, okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Second, they are doing that. That's good. It's not good enough. When crimes occur, it is the duty, the foremost duty of the police to apprehend criminals. So that is a minimalist approach. That is just what they have to do. But they have to do more. And the more consists in preventing, to the extent possible, these kinds of things from happening, or reducing the frequency with which they are happening. I am tentative in saying that there is an increase because I have not paid attention to the statistics, and I do not generally trust police statistics when it is them just giving it out, unless it is in an area where the citizen cannot easily research. But where it is about police criminality, it should be possible for social scientists to research it. I have not, so I cannot categorically say that there has been an increase. But assuming that there is, the police administration has a duty to introduce innovative measures that will help reduce the alacrity with which some police officers engage in crime.
Okay.
Surely, I know that police criminality itself is embedded. It is built into. It is an integral part of the routine activities of policing.
How does that come about? And I was trying to understand how a policeman whose job it is to enforce the law will end up being on the wrong end perpetrating crime. What happens in that scheme of things?
When you take an able-bodied male, and I'm talking male Homo sapiens as such, an able-bodied man and woman too, but because violent crime is generally a young man's game, if you take an able-bodied man, 18 years and above and under 45, and you train him with the instruments of lethal violence, you equip him with skills that can let him do deadly violence to people, and you also teach him the techniques of committing crime in order that he can, as it were, undercut or undermine criminals. If you give him the dexterity of a pickpocket, you have to be sanguine enough to know that he may use the dexterity to his personal advantage. If you train him to shoot and he becomes a good marksman, you have to be sanguine enough to know that unless he is well grounded in personal morals and strong commitment to lawfulness, that this person may at some point be tempted to engage in criminality using the tools or the weapons, including the ideas that you have equipped him with. And if you put him through a vicious, violent training process, such as we see security agencies generally put their recruits, they come out hardened hardened at heart, hardened in the body, cruel in mind, and lacking a sense of compassion.
Are you saying we should change the way we train our police officers?
Absolutely, absolutely.
From what to what?
I mean, the brutal aspects of it have to go. This whole bullying mentality. I have worked with police officers. I have had police when we were doing national reconciliation and there were, threats of harm and all of that. We had bodyguards, lived with police officers, had them in my car all the time. You listen to your average cop, and the mentality is that they must kick some butt. That whole idea emanates from the nature of the training. I don't know if you saw the video that was circulating recently about a security officer training some, and hitting the person.
Yes.
All of those are heinous abuses. When the recruits come out, they have been equipped with the attitudinal framework, the mindset that it is just right and proper to subject human beings to that kind of treatment, especially where the human beings are civilians.
But are you also considering that this kind of training was made possible because you're dealing with another set of criminals who are equally hardened and need to be dealt with in that manner?
Assuming even that were true, I am more inclined to the view by Martin Luther King Jr. that, violence doesn't drive out violence, hate doesn't drive out hate. Only love can do that. And I'm not idealistic. I have worked with police. I was an advisor to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police in Vancouver, Canada. I have gone on the beat with police. I've seen policing on the streets and the difficulties. One of the most difficult and dangerous jobs anyone can do, policing. Perhaps firefighting is number one, then policing and some of them, yes, and mining. But when it comes to the nature of the training, the brutality is not an essential ingredient of police effectiveness.
Okay.
Indeed, police effectiveness has very little to do with brute force. It's got everything to do with brawn. With brain.
And we'll look at that shortly. I'll let you get your glass of water. We'll go for a quick break. We're discussing the issue of some police officers who are engaging in crime in this country and what can be done to reverse that trend. We'll be back after this short break. Stay with us. You're welcome back to the Pulse on the Joy News channel on Multi TV. My name is Francis Abma. What's still ahead here on the show is God Business. Who are the investors? Well, we'll bring you all the sides of that very controversial story about the outgoing Presbyterian moderator. The plot is beginning to thicken and the story is getting a lot more dirtier. We'll delve into that here on the show. That's still to come in the next hour here on the show. But we're discussing that main issue to do with men, or should I say criminals in uniform, the worrying trend that many people have had cause to speak about today. We've looked at the problem, what needs to be done to fix it, but we're still getting to understand the mind of a criminal here, especially for one who is in uniform in the country, and what we can all do to protect ourselves. Joining us in the studio, he's been with me for the past 40 minutes. Professor Ken Atefa is a renowned criminologist and also the Dean of the Law Faculty at the Central University. Thank you once again for sharing some time with us today. So before the break, we were talking about the brutal treatment given to police officers when they are recruits and they are training. You're saying that should change, but if it's changing, what should it change to?
Oh, it's just a subtraction. I mean, the rest of the police training is adequate. I mean, it's fine. Of course, if you speak of particular crimes and how to police it, I have some views on that. I always raise the question: if you take 5 police officers and you put them in a house and say, what would you do? I mean, you put them at a crime scene, theoretical crime scene, and say, what would you do if you got a report that crime was taking place, robbery was taking place in that house? You would find the scattered answers, very divergent answers, because the training, there's something lacking in police training, how to respond to critical emergencies of that nature. If there was a terrorist attack, how would 5 different police officers respond? No, we need to fine-tune training here and there, depending on the particular kind of crime. But as a general training framework, I'm saying that extreme violence, I'm not saying they shouldn't be trained to use violence and all of, I'm saying that the abusive, denigrating treatment is wholly unnecessary. Our Constitution also says in Article 15(1) that the dignity of the human being shall be inviolable. Now, when you subject people to that kind of undignified treatment, abusing, denigrating them, and humiliating them, they come to internalize it as proper, or at minimum, that they look forward to the day that they can also do likewise unto other people. It is wholly unnecessary, and the more violent a training you give to police, the more violent a police institution you create, and the more violence you foster in society, because they respond with unnecessary brutality to incidents of crime. And the whole mindset in this country, that strange mindset that the police will deal ruthlessly with criminals, is part of the problem. No police officer has a right to deal ruthlessly with criminals. They have every right, and in fact a duty, to use every reasonable force within the confines of the law to stop criminals, to apprehend criminals, to handcuff them, to take them into custody, and all of that.
Is that not what they say with the bravado of saying being ruthless?
No. The ruthless is even after they've arrested you and they beat you, one slap after arrest is an illegality. When you have subdued the person, you are not entitled to administer a single slap, to put the person, to let them drink water from the sewage, or to let any of those kinds of acts of mistreatment. It's unwarranted.
So for this issue of the men in uniform who are caught in the web of committing crimes, how do we first of all weed them out of the police service system?
Well, the police administration has to evince a greater level of commitment to police discipline and integrity. And I have said that when it comes to integrity, it's a personal, you have to make a personal commitment to it. That is the reason our society is so deficient in the high standards that we see when we travel elsewhere. It is because fewer and fewer of us make a personal commitment. But you have to ask yourself, is this what I would want the world to see me do? Is this what my family would be proud of if it was splashed on the front pages of the newspapers or on the screens of Joy FM? You have to ask yourself, someone says, lead your life such that when your children think of integrity, caring, and fairness, they'll think of you. The police administration has a duty to enhance the level of integrity. They have a duty to also stop the nepotistic appointments, the nepotistic promotions, and the nepotistic recruitment that goes on. And by nepotism, I'm referring to all of those forms of conduct that are based on improper considerations related to friends, family, old school, old boyism, old girlism, all of those fraternities, lodges, all of those layers of relationships in which merit is not involved, but improper considerations, political party affiliations, one of the biggest problems in this country. That has to be taken out. Then we also need to take out the politics, and I mean partisan politics, out of policing in this country.
What is partisan politics in policing?
Oh, if there is a problem, a crime, an alleged crime, and the person has a particular party's color, that will determine how the police responds. You are not the only stranger in Jerusalem. In this country, policing is, some measure of policing is according to the formula of political coloration. If you are an NDC related person and you commit a certain kind of crime, and that fact becomes known to that village police officer, chances are you will not be dealt with. I was in a rural area over 2 weeks last week, and somebody belonging to one political party had made a comment against the leader of a particular political party in the district there, a DCE, and the police invited the person and arrested him, and then charged him with, because he had made a statement that the DCE considered to be untrue about him. It was reported to the police, and they charged him with publication of false news. But the crime is publication of false news with intent to cause fear and panic or alarm. The crime that Amina Mohammed was charged with. Somebody says something untrue about you, you go to court if you think you've been defamed. Not a criminal matter. I had a client go to Nima police station last week, about 10 days ago. the employer reports that he has stolen a vehicle, an official vehicle in his custody, that the company gave to him, and that the company knew was sitting in his house. 5:30 a.m. they go and effect his arrest, and they report him to the police, and the police go and arrest the man. 5:30. He calls me in the morning, and I say, by 6 o'clock he called me, and I said, I'll take you there. But all I'm saying is that in this country, one of the most debased aspects of our society is the frequent use of appropriate state institutions and arrangements to deal with collateral matters that give us unfair advantage. And party, political, and ethnic considerations are two of the most abused forms of relationships that we need to take out. And the police must clean up and give for us, to the extent possible, a more pristine, a more confidence-evoking institution that will enlist the support of the citizen.
Thank you so much for coming today. There's a lot we can talk about, but unfortunately we've run out of time. Professor Ken Atefa is a renowned criminologist and also the Dean of the Law Faculty at the Central University, sharing his thoughts with us on what we can do to deal with this trend that's emerging that people are worried about, men who are supposed to be enforcing the law rather committing crimes in the country. Thank you, sir, for joining us today.
You're most welcome, sir.
Right, and moving on to some other stories this afternoon here on the program. Residents of Dudamanfrom in the KJB district of the Volta region are bemoaning the upsurge of crime in the area due to a lack of adequate policemen to keep security intact. According to the residents, the 5 police officers provided by the Ghana Police Service is woefully inadequate, making it difficult for them to fight crime and respond to distress calls on time. Komla Adam visited the area and has come through with this report.
Dodo Amanfrom has a population of about 5,000, making it one of the biggest communities in the Volta region of Ghana. Police records available show there has been an increase in smuggling, farm theft and other petty crimes in the community. In a bid to bring closure to this, the Ghana Police Service posted 5 policemen to the area. But this number, according to the residents in the area, does not help the cause for a crime-free area. Nkoswoheni of the community, Nana Kojonyami, tells me having more police posts and personnel will help remedy the situation.
Really, the police accommodation is deplorable. The community are now trying to mobilize some funds to renovate some of their buildings. And the police, the strength of the police, they are not many. They are only 5 serving the whole community. The population of the Dudamanfrom is almost 5,000, and the surrounding villages.
These 5 police officers who have been posted to the area are having to grapple with deplorable conditions of service. Records are made manually. The post also lacks computers and other modern policing information storage equipment. The charge office of a station also leaks terribly with gaping holes in the ceiling. Accommodation facilities for the police in the community are also deplorable and can best be described as disasters waiting to happen. Walls of the buildings are caving in, huge cracks are wearing them down, and portions of the roofs leak badly when it rains. Portions of the ceilings are also peeling off and falling apart. The toilets, washrooms and kitchens of the barracks are also near collapse. Members of the community say they fear the situation, if not checked, could pose a serious threat to the lives of a few police personnel and their families who live in these bad structures.
Crime situation or area where saying police for no more available, are they able to manage the situation?
One way are there, but I can't say I don't my own police from that town one.
Article 200 of the 1992 Constitution mandates the police service shall be equipped to perform its traditional role of maintaining law and order. However, the situation at Dudamanfrom in the KJB district makes the UN policing standard of 1 police to 500 people in 2014 a distant dream. Komladum, Joy News, Dudamanfrom.
You're still watching The Pulse on the Joy News channel, Multi TV.